Welcome to Speak Easy English. Today's story is about fear, strength, victory, and the power of determination. In a small town at the edge of the Great Mountains, there lived a girl named Mira. The mountains stood tall above her town, their high peaks covered in white snow that touched the clouds. Every morning when Mira woke up, the first thing she saw through her window was the tallest mountain of all. The people of the town called it the Sky Father, because its top seemed to reach the heavens. Mira's father had loved that mountain more than any place on earth. He had been a mountain guide, a strong and gentle man who knew every path and every rock. When Mira was a little girl, her father would lift her onto his shoulders and point to the great peak. "One day, Mira," he would say, "you and I will climb the Sky Father together. We will stand on the very top, and we will touch the sky. And from up there, we will see the whole world." But that day never came. When Mira was 12 years old, her father fell sick, and after a long illness, he passed away. Before he died, he held his daughter's hand and whispered, "Do not be sad for too long, my brave girl. And do not forget our dream. One day, climb the mountain for both of us. Stand on the top, and I will be with you." After her father was gone, Mira was filled with sadness. And she was filled with something else too. She was filled with fear. She had grown afraid of the mountain that had taken so much of her heart. She was afraid of its great height. She was afraid of the cold and the danger. The thought of climbing it made her tremble. For years, she did not even like to look at the high peak. But the dream her father had given her never died. It lived quietly in her heart, like a small and stubborn flame. And as Mira grew into a young woman, that flame began to grow stronger. "I made a promise," she told herself. "I cannot let my fear win. I will climb the Sky Father. I will keep my father's dream alive." So Mira began to prepare. She knew she could not climb a great mountain all at once. She had to grow strong first, step by step. Every morning she woke before sunrise and ran along the hills outside the town. She carried a heavy bag on her back to make her legs and shoulders strong. She climbed the small hills first, then the bigger ones. Her body grew strong, but her heart was still full of fear. The older guides of the town shook their heads when they heard her plan. "The Sky Father is no place for you, child," they said. "It is a dangerous mountain. Strong men have failed to climb it. Some have never come back. Your father was the best of us, and even he never reached the top. Give up this foolish dream. Stay safe in the town." Their words made Mira afraid all over again. But she remembered her father's gentle voice. "I am not climbing because it is safe," she said. "I am climbing because I promised. Fear is not a reason to stop. Fear is only a feeling. I will carry my fear up the mountain with me, but I will not let it turn me back." One old guide, a kind man named Dev who had been her father's closest friend, saw the fire in her eyes. "I will not tell you to give up," he said. "Your father had that same look. But I will teach you, so that you climb wisely and not foolishly. A mountain is not beaten by strength alone. It is beaten by patience, by respect, and by a calm heart." And so Dev became her teacher. For a whole year, Mira trained under Dev. He taught her how to use the ropes. He taught her how to find safe footing on the ice. He taught her how to read the sky and know when a storm was coming. Most of all, he taught her how to stay calm when fear filled her heart. "When you are high on the mountain and you feel afraid," he said, "do not look down at how far you might fall. Do not look up at how far you still must go. Just look at the next step in front of you. Take that one step. Then take the next. A mountain is climbed one small step at a time." To prepare Mira for the great mountain, Dev took her to climb a smaller peak nearby. It was the final test before the Sky Father. For 2 days, The climb went well. But on the third day, Mira came to a narrow ledge high above a deep valley. When she looked down, her old terror seized her completely. Her legs turned to stone. Her heart pounded so hard that she could not breathe. She clung to the rock, unable to move forward and unable to move back. "I cannot," she gasped. "I cannot do it." In the end, Dev had to help her climb slowly back down. They did not reach the top. Mira returned home in shame and despair. She felt like a complete failure. "I was foolish to dream of the sky, Father," she told Dev bitterly. "If I cannot even climb a small peak, how can I ever climb the greatest one? The villagers were right. I should give up." Dev sat beside her quietly for a long time. Then he said, "Mira, do you know why I took you to that peak? Not to see if you could reach the top. I took you there so that you could meet your fear. And you did. You came face to face with it. Now you know exactly what waits for you on the mountain. That is not failure, my child. That is the most important lesson of all. A soldier who has never seen the enemy goes to battle blind. But you have now seen your enemy, and you have survived. Next time, you will be ready for it." Mira listened, and slowly her despair began to lift. "But how do I beat such a fear?" she asked. "When I looked down, I could not move at all." Dev smiled gently. "You made one mistake," he said. "You looked down. You looked at everything you could lose. From now on, you will look only at the next handhold, the next small step. Fear grows when we look at the whole mountain. Fear shrinks when we look at the next single step. Trust me, and try once more. Not the small peak. This time, the Sky Father itself." Mira looked at the old guide, her father's dear friend, and she felt her courage slowly returning. She had failed once. But she understood now that failing was not the same as quitting. "All right," she said, and her voice was steady again. "I will try once more. And this time, I will not look down." At last, the day came. Early one clear morning, Mira stood at the foot of the Sky Father with her bag on her back and her heart beating fast. Dev could not climb with her, for he was too old now. But he held her shoulders and said, "Your father is watching, and so am I. Climb wisely. Come home safely. Remember, one step at a time." Mira began to climb. The first day was hard but good. She climbed through green forests and over rocky paths, and that night she slept in a small tent under a sky full of stars. The second day was harder. The air grew thin, and it became difficult to breathe. The cold wind cut through her clothes. Her legs burned with tiredness. But she remembered Dev's words. One step at a time. And so she kept going. Late on that second day, as the light began to fade, Mira came upon something that made her heart stop. Another climber lay against the rocks, a young man she did not know, pale and shivering and unable to move. He had climbed too fast, run out of strength, and now the deadly cold was creeping into his body. If he stayed there through the freezing night, he would surely die. Mira was exhausted herself, and she knew that stopping to help him would cost her precious time and energy. A selfish voice whispered that she should climb on and save herself. But she could not leave a dying man alone on the mountain. She remembered her father, who had given so much of himself helping others on these very slopes. So Mira stopped. She wrapped the stranger in her own warm blanket. She shared her food and her hot drink. She built a small shelter from the rocks and stayed beside him through the long, cold night, keeping him awake and alive. By morning, the young man had recovered enough to climb slowly back down to safety. He grasped her hands with tears in his eyes. "You gave up your own strength to save a stranger," he said. "I will never forget you." Mira had lost a night and much of her energy. But as she watched him climb down safely, she felt something grow inside her, a strength that had nothing to do with her legs. It was the strength of a kind and fearless heart, and it would carry her all the way to the top. On the third day, the real test came. Mira reached a steep wall of rock and ice, high above the world. The wind howled around her. Below her, the ground fell away so far that her stomach turned with terror. Her old fear rose up like a giant. Her hands shook. Her breath came fast and shallow. "I cannot do this," she whispered. "It is too high. It is too dangerous. I should turn back." For a long moment, Mira clung to the rock, frozen with fear, ready to give up. She thought of going home, of being safe, of forgetting this terrible mountain forever. But then, through the howling wind, she seemed to hear her father's voice, soft and warm, just as it had been when she was a little girl on his shoulders. "One step at a time, my brave girl. I am with you." Mira closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She did not look down. She did not look up. She looked only at the next small place to put her hand. Just this one step, she told herself. She reached out and took hold. Then the next step. Then the next. Slowly, carefully, one movement at a time, she climbed the great wall of ice. She did not think about the top. She thought only about the next small thing she could do. And in this way, without even noticing it, she climbed higher and higher. When at last she pulled herself over the top of the icy wall, she looked up, and her heart almost stopped. The summit was there, just above her now. The very top of the Sky Father. The place her father had pointed to so long ago. With the last of her strength, Mira climbed the final stretch. And then, on a clear and shining morning, with the wind singing all around her, Mira stood upon the highest peak of the Sky Father. She had done it. She was standing on the top of the world. She looked out, and she saw exactly what her father had promised. She saw the whole world spread out below her, the green valleys, the silver rivers, the tiny town that was her home, all of it small and beautiful and far away. The sky was so close that she felt she could reach up and touch it. Tears streamed down her cold face, but she was smiling, a wide and joyful smile. "We did it, Papa," she whispered into the wind. "We are standing on the top, just like you said. And you are here with me. I can feel it." In that moment, on the roof of the world, Mira understood something she would never forget. The mountain had not taken away her fear. She had felt afraid the whole way up, every single step. But she had learned that courage does not mean having no fear. Courage means being afraid and choosing to take the next step anyway. Mira climbed safely down the mountain, and she returned home a different person. The fear that had ruled her for so many years was gone, replaced by a quiet and unshakable strength. She became a mountain guide, just like her father, and she led many others up the great peaks. And to every frightened climber who wanted to turn back, she would say the words her father had given her. Do not look down at how far you might fall. Do not look up at how far you still must go. Just take the next step. Then the next. Fear will always walk beside you, but it does not have to lead the way. One step at a time, even the tallest mountain in the world can be climbed. And that is the story of the girl who climbed the mountain. A story that teaches us that the greatest victories are not won by people who feel no fear, but by those who feel the fear and find the strength to keep on climbing.